Guys, we normally try and talk about things that are really positive, that are uplifting. Unfortunately, we have something that ties the three of you together, and that is adversity. Adversity, I think by nature, is something that is negative, at least initially. It comes to your life, whether it's physical adversity, mental adversity, then there tends to be a branching out point, different for everyone, how you react to it, how you deal with it. And so for what we wanted to explore for one of the upcoming issues of Road and Track Magazine is just that. The fact that we have the three of you, excellent race car drivers, team owner now, who are connected by something beyond just a passion for driving, but a, bluntly, holy shit, all right, we need to get over something. With you, fortunately, very bad, but the road to recovery was relatively quick. Robbie, you're inspiring the world, fighting your ass off. Sam,
by Sam Schmidt, who won his first PPG pole here yesterday and now drives to victory in the race itself. What a happy guy. Looks like he's unstrapped the belts already and is anxious to get out of the car and into victory lane. We'll have the interview.
Superman today.
That's right. We'll have the interview with him on RPM tonight, but quite a day for Sam Schmidt, who wins.
I've never heard you say I give up. I've never heard you say I accept this. So this is what we wanted to explore, somewhere in this world of, for the average person who might enjoy racing, but doesn't really know that it's not just all champagne and celebration. There are these things that do connect some of you that involve overcoming. Let's start with you, James. You come into this team driving for Sam, probably knowing Sam's story. Was there any thought for you that there might be a point where, although to a different degree, you would have to go to a place where you were maybe questioning yourself? Was this the Lord telling me I need to go become a banker or a real estate agent? How did you react to your adversity at Indy?
No, I mean, I think, and I've said it before many times, we've spoken about it, I think racers are inherently, we're wired differently. And I don't know if I can think of an example of a guy that has been through, something as a result of something that happened in a car and not immediately wanted to find the quickest way back into a car. It's the way we're wired. I think it's just inherent in what we do. There's a danger involved, and we accept that. And if we, go through something, as long as we survived it, there's a good chance that we're going to want to find a way to get back in.
Sam, I was fortunate to meet you for the first time, pitted at the very end of garages in the Indy Racing League. You and your little team, me and my little team, you were on your way. Tell us about not just the accident that happened, but how you began to process it in the weeks, months that followed. Was there anything in your mind involving permanence? This is it, I'm stuck? Or was your mind in a place where you said, I don't know what the outcome is, but I'm not going to accept this?
Yeah, I don't think so, simply because A, our family's always had a really strong faith, and B, what's not, I think, readily known to the general community is that my father was paralyzed racing when I was 11, and they told him he'd never walk or talk again. And he did, 2 years of outpatient therapy, 5 days a week, 2 hours a day, to get his speech back, get his right leg back, and became, a very active member of society and went on to do some great things, and he's in his 70s and still doing good, so that, and then I got a 2.5-year-old and a 6-month-old that are bouncing into the room every morning for my inpatient rehabilitation. And so, those kind of 3 layers, and then on top of that, the motorsports community just, flooding at that time. Physical cards and letters. I know you guys don't know what that is, but I got a bag, of cards and letters, and people sending me, you took a picture of my daughter in Pocono Dover, and all this stuff. You got to come back. You got to do something. So just all these levels of support, to where, I was delirious enough in ICU. I think. I knew it was January. I was on some pretty good drugs, but I actually told my wife, it's just January. I'll be ready for May. Yeah. And so those kind of things happen, and you remember a lot of things. But No, there was never, I think, I'd be silly to say, hey, yeah, in the last 19 years have I been depressed, or have I said, why me? Or that's stupid. That stuff happens, But no, you just move on and get on with it. And once I, kind of came to the conclusion that, this wasn't something I couldn't, completely overcome, which is sheer determination and perseverance, which had been the previous rest of my life. I just said, hey, I still want to be in racing. I mean, it takes a couple hours to get up every morning. So let's figure out a way to do that.
Robbie, for you, your progress externally, we haven't been there with you every day, unfortunately, but externally, amazing. Tell us, like Sam, about the first days, first weeks where it really was quiet, private. What is that like, waking up, not being able to roll out, grab your coffee, do whatever it is, the normal functions, guessing there had to be something in your mind saying, hold on, this is telling me to do normal things, but I'm not getting the response. What is that like?
Yeah, the problem I had, I guess similar to Sam, we on some pretty good drugs. So at the beginning,
Did you tell him about Miller? About Miller always shows up like after drivers had an accident and is on drugs and does the, hey, don't worry, whenever you can get that $300 back to me that I left, right? It's always trying to get the guys when they're high, but sorry, I digress.
No, so like my thing was I had very like vivid dreams, and then when I was awake, I couldn't really tell the difference between like a dream and reality. So when everyone kept telling me like, you're paralyzed, I'm like, I'm not. I was doing running intervals yesterday, and they're like, Rob, you weren't. And I was like, I was at Pit Fit, I was doing running intervals, but it's like, the dreams were so crazy, like there was the most vivid things I've ever had, and the crazy thing is I didn't really remember much during the day, but I still to this day remember like the dreams I was having. But yeah, it's just some really bizarre stuff, and it wasn't really until I got off of the heavy stuff that I kind of started really to sink in. I mean, there was one moment with my brother, it was just him and I in the ICU room, and had a blanket over me always, and I think I was trying to get like my iPad, and it was hitting something, and I'm like, what's my iPad stuck on, or what's the table stuck on? And he's like, Rob, that's your leg. And I was like, oh, like I didn't know at that time that I had legs because I couldn't feel them, and mixed with the medicine, and I was just like, hey, how am I supposed to walk and get better and get back into an IndyCar when I don't even know I have legs in the first place? And I was like, we gotta cut this off real quick. And
that might not be the choice of phrasing I would use,
right.
But okay. Right.
Yeah. The drugs.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. And and then from there that's kind of when it really sunk in that like I don't have a feeling in my legs yet, and then it kind of all started to work start working from there.
I can think of a couple situations in my life, none that were anything like the three of you experienced, where some form of panic set in at not being able to control something I was used to control. That thing was usually quickly overcome, back to a state of mental rest, that false sense we tell ourselves, we're in charge of the world. What's it like? Because I don't know. When you can't get that control back, at least not immediately, where the response is not coming from your body the way that you're accustomed to.
Mine was like frustration, like I would be uncomfortable in bed. I could only be on my back. My back was in a lot of pain, and I didn't have the strength to move on my own. And I'd just be uncomfortable, and I'd be tossing and turning. And what a lot of people don't know about spinal injury, the spinal cord is kind of your thermostat for temperature, like modulation, and I was always just like hot, cold. So I'd be like covered in sweat, and I just want to move, but I couldn't. And just like getting used to having to rely on other people to do things for me. That was kind of the thing that gave me, that kind of panic attack that you were speaking about.
What about you, Sam?
Yeah, frustration's a huge way to put it. I think that all of us, you're a certain type of person if you're a race car driver, and you're just driven and you're focused on one goal, and then it's all taken away from you. And for me, you know, they told my wife, you know, find him a nursing home, he'd be on a vent the rest of his life, and it'll probably be pretty short. So to go from that to, you know, fire that doctor, hire a different one, get transferred, and then like, you know, 5 weeks later I get off the ventilator, it's like, well, that was easy. What's the next step? And there was a, you know, I wouldn't say a false sense of like, hey, this is easy. We just got to work hard. We just got to work hard. We just got to work hard. And yeah, I mean, I lost 40 pounds. I went through a lot of the same things that Robert did, and did 6 months of inpatient rehabilitation, and just frankly, you know, worked my ass off for, you know, 4 or 5 hours a day, as much as I could get. Some Saturdays, and just you know, there was some stuff coming back slowly, and I could get some balance, and I didn't have a severed spine like Robert's situation, but it had a pretty good bend to it, unlike Robert's, you know. So it's like, man, but I had a great guy by my side named Pat Rummerfield, who's a walking quad, and he was inspiring me and pushing me on. So then you go home, and you know, you continue to do that for another 6 months. I mean, the same type of regimen, just hitting it hard, and then, you know, things start to plateau after a year, and it gets a high level of frustration because, man, I just thought in my mind, if I just kept working hard, you know, 4 or 5, 6 hours a day, that I would have continued progress, continued improvement, and at least get my biceps and triceps back, you know, so I could hug my kids or drive something with a joystick or whatever. And it just never came. But I think now, you know, 19 years later, you know, I'm okay because I've seen all the good we've been able to do, you know. So it's and I get to see my kids grow up. So I've got a healthy environment, and as long as I stick to the program, I'm, you know, lead a pretty good life.
Sam mentioned his faith really being an anchor for him. I know that for some who are of faith, that would be a natural anchor. This isn't meant to be a cheeky question, but I did think when you had your crash, and you as well, thank God you guys are Canadian. Because, and I'm not saying all Canadians are like the two of you, but I've known more like you that have a warmth and belief. There's a lightness that, okay, throw the darkness, great, I'll deal with it, but I'm going to get back to my natural way. Do you think there's anything to that? Faith aside, just mindset, belief, whatever it is inside you that makes you who you are, that, all right, well, I'm probably well armed to tackle something like this.
Yeah, I mean, I think mindset's a good way to look at it. You know, I think I don't know if being Canadian is a benefit or not.
We're pretty awesome.
I was gonna say it's like dark half the year in Canada, so maybe that's part of it. But no, it's
After that, you can through anything.
yeah, exactly. Canadian winters, that's the hardest part. But no, yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, in my deal at least, I looked at all the things that had to happen just wrong for that accident to happen in the first place, for the injury to occur the way that it did. It was a very, you know, freak injury. And then you look over it the other way, and you look at how many things had to happen just right for it not to be a whole lot worse. And I think that was like a really big mindset shift, and made me realize how lucky I really was. And from then it was kind of pretty, you know, it was pretty easy to keep your head in the right place. And having a great support system around you, I think, is incredibly important, and I think we've all been very fortunate to have that. You know, in Robbie and I's case, with each other and with Sam, and, you know, and everything. That was, I know Sam was a huge help to my parents when I got hurt, and obviously a huge help to Rob and everyone around him. So it's, you know, in some ways, as unlucky as all the events were, the timing and placing almost had a fortuitous twist to it in a way.
What about you, Robbie? I can think about some drivers in the IndyCar paddock who, if they had experienced what you did, again, they might just fall down into a deep well of negativity and maybe not have come back. Do you think just whatever that innate nature you have has been an ally?
I mean, it's an easy well to fall into. You know, I mean, that's the biggest thing. Is I've always been a believer for a long time that positivity creates positive outcomes, and I've always thought that. I mean, I went through some pretty bad, like a bad year in particular in DTM, where I kind of got stuck in this negative spiral, and then from there just found it and readjusted, and I've been kept that kind of motto over the last few years of my racing career. But I still to this day believe that positivity can change anything, and you know, there's no sense in dwelling on the past and being negative. And like Sam said, like the why me scenario, you know, of course I thought that. Of course I thought, like, why didn't I just like lift earlier? You know, why didn't Ryan give me more space? Why wasn't the wall 2 inches taller? You know, there's so many different scenarios. But then pinpointing on what James did there, so many things did exactly what they're supposed to do to keep me alive. You know, there's so many different opportunities that could have made that crash fatal, and somehow I'm still here. And it's just remarkable, one, from IndyCar and the safety team, how quickly they extracted me out of the car, and all the protocols, you know, the vetting that IndyCar does to make sure that there's good, proper hospitals nearby and they know the protocols on what needs to be done. You know, I think there's a lot of series out there that my outcome would have been quite a bit worse if I was in a different car in a different series.
Start to close, guys, on Sam. You were highly praised for not just you, but just the entire team being so reactive to Robbie and James as well in their incidents. Can you share some insights as to where that comes from? Is it just automatic duty? Is there any linkage to, I've been in similar situations, I know what it's like to maybe have any gaps?
Certainly going back to my accident, we really felt, you're competitive on the track, but we really felt the size and scope of the motorsports community and how it can be there when you need it. From the Tony George family to, offering jets and whatever, and let's face it, life back in 1999 was not nearly as organized as it is now, as far as that and the aftercare and the insurance and whatever, but...
Especially with Y2K just around the corner.
Yeah, exactly. It's all going to blow up. It's all going to blow up. Well, this is actually 2000. I just got by 6 days, and then I had my accident, thank God. But a lot of things, were as good as they could be back then for our family, and then of course you get to be a team owner, and you develop this catastrophe plan. As a team owner, we've got a big binder and all the trailers and all this stuff, and you develop that hoping you'll never need it. And unfortunately, we've needed it a few times, and so everybody, jumps into action in a very organized fashion, and you got to get a hold of fiance, you got to get a hold of parents, you got to find out where everybody's at, and how do we get them to track quickly, and how do we get information going and communication lines, and so, but even after that, obviously this was something I felt I knew a little bit about, and so, talking to his neurosurgeon and seeing his surgeries, I think, I don't know, I'm one of those people that I think from the very get-go, I kind of told him what I thought the first year would be like, and I think, pretty much on track. There's a lot of people that said, man, you're going to get up and walk out of here. And then they come out of the room and say, are you, is that possible? They look to me and say, is that possible? I'm like, hell yeah, it's possible. The things that made him, such a great driver is what will allow that to be possible. So, but, to your point, Marshall, is just, you got to do what's right. At the end of the day, you got to do what's right. And whether it was James, whether it was Davey Hamilton back in 2001, whatever, you have to do what's right. You got to take care of the family. You got to make sure they're not worried about flights and logistics and hotels, and all the focus, all the energy, all the positivity's got to go towards these guys when something like that happens. And so you just try to eliminate all that noise from everybody else, and you jump on it as a team and you make it happen.
Last two questions, guys. Hinch, can you tell us about what you found within yourself, having gone through that hellacious crash and come out the other side?
Besides the medal.
Yeah, they took that part out, so that was the good news. What I found in me that wasn't supposed to be there. No, they burned it or something. I would love to have that thing mounted on a wall. I beat you. You tried. No,
I'll pay you not to hit me with that, knowing where it was.
I think it was sort of twofold. I mean, I think when you go through something like that, and it's funny, especially coming from a group of athletes, a group of competitive people, you still find kind of that next level of strength within yourself, because dealing with something like that is very different than dealing with a bad day at the track, a bad qualifying session or a bad race. We're built to do that. We've been doing that for our entire lives, but this is a much more serious thing in pretty much every way, and you never know how you're going to really react to that until you find yourself in that situation. So part of it, I think, is appreciating the inner strength that you find in yourself, and the motivation and the drive and perseverance, all those things that make you successful in the car. You find to a whole new level when you're dealing with something like that out of the car. And in my case, I also kind of found like I got a weird sort of everything happens for a reason belief, and part of me thinks that for whatever reason it wasn't my time, and it's almost like there's some purpose out there, and I haven't quite found out what it is, but for me it was, there was
The world needed more Hondas to be sold.
there was clearly
I have a theory.
oh God. Yes, Ravi?
You were born to dance.
I was born to
James.
dance, man. I had to learn ballroom dancing. Unfortunately, I've done that, so I'm disposable
He's
disposable
done,
anytime.
actually, so his purpose is over. We
yeah,
don't need him anymore.
totally disposable.
I don't know why he's still around.
Robbie, how about you? And I know you're not at that exit gate yet. What are you finding about yourself? This can't be just same guy that you were before.
I'm still learning, Marshall. Still finding new things that I didn't think I could do that I can do now. I mean, that's the craziest thing, I think, pinpointing kind of what we've all said, that inner fight, something that James just stepped on there is just the fact that I'm working. I thought I was always a hard worker, and what I'm doing now has blown away anything. I wish I worked this hard when I was trying to get to Formula One, because you never know what could have happened. But I thought then I was working the hardest I could have worked, and it's just never ending. That's the thing with the spinal cord injury in particular, is you have those days where you're just did even a 30 to 35 hour workout week, and you sit on your only day off on Sunday, and you're just thinking I feel like I went backwards this week, but then you wake up Monday morning bright and early to get back to the gym, and first thing you do, you just blow all of your previous goals out of the water, and you have this great day, and then it follows up with a good week. And I'm finding new ways to push myself. I'm finding new ways to be a better person. I mean, this definitely tested my mental capacity, probably more so than my physical capacity, just to keep positive and to find those little lights at the end of the tunnel that you never would have looked at before, trying to find those small wins instead of looking at a bigger picture. I mean, I think that's kind of things that I've kind of taken away from all this.